All right, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our panel today on the importance of building relationships in a new world. My name is Megan Callahan, and I'm the City Center Manager of Cosentino, San Francisco. And I am joined today by three panelists and industry experts. Kevin Vaughter from A Shade Above. I have Chris Eskra, Principal Designer at Kendall Wilkinson Design, and Dina Bandman, Principal Owner at Dean Abandonment Interiors. Kevin, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me today. My name is Kevin Vaughter, and I work for A Shade Above, like Megan said. And we are a high-end home theater, automation, AV, lighting control, and motorized window coverings company. I've been in the AV industry for 25 years and in the integration market for 18. And I consider myself part of the design community.
Thanks, Kevin. Chris, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Certainly. So Chris Eskra, I'm a principal with Kendall Wilkinson Design here in San Francisco as well. The firm's been around for 30 years, and I've been in the business myself for about 25 years. We do primarily residential projects around the country, so we're not limited to San Francisco or the Bay Area. And while we do other projects that are restaurants and offices, we're primarily focused on doing residential design. And we do all phases of construction as well as interiors and furnishings and lighting.
Thank you. And Dina, last but certainly not least, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Of course. I'm Dina Bandman, and I started my firm, Dean Abandonment Interiors, about 4 or 5 years ago. When I moved back to San Francisco, I was in New York previously, and we are focused on high-end residential design. And as of right now, our projects are mostly in the Bay Area, San Francisco, and surrounding areas. But last year, we were traveling all over. We had a project in Miami, Seattle, New York. So we're happy to go wherever our clients need us.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining us today. I think it's also important to note that you're all very involved in the local SF ASID community. Kevin, you were a former memberships director of ASID. Chris, you were a former president of ASID. And Dina, you are the current president of ASID. So I think that's great. You're all very well connected here in San Francisco. So let's dive into our questions. As you know, our design community is based on strong relationships. This past 6 months has been unlike any time we've ever experienced. How have you stayed connected to your friends in the industry?
Well, one of the ways, I'll start that off. One of the ways that we stay connected is obviously by getting on these Zoom calls, which I know that many of us might be a bit tired of, but I meet on a regular basis with architects, contractors, and clients, and it's actually worked quite well for the most part. Same thing with my design team. So in San Francisco, we're technically not allowed to be in the office. So I have daily check-ins with my design team at 9 a.m. every morning. And this is how we sort of touch base with what's on board for the day, what everybody's going to be working on. And so this is, the laptop, the computer, the internet is how we stay in touch for the most part on an ongoing basis. It's worked quite well. It really has.
What about you, Kevin?
I've been able to do lunch and learns for designers, architects, builders, where I had this crazy idea that I still had a marketing budget. So I decided that I would send lunch to the designer, architect, builder while we're doing our lunch and learn, and I would send it to their homes. So it was a little bit of a task, and it was a little bit of a trial by error, but it's actually been very, very helpful because, people are having to be in front of their computers anyway. Might as well feed them and explain a little bit about what we do and keep those relationships strong.
So I'd like to add on to what Kevin just said, and that is that I was a recipient of one of those lunch and learns. And I have to say that I thought it was a marketing stroke of genius, because I got more people in my office that actually allocated time to sit and listen to Kevin's presentation, because they were captive with lunch and their computers and in their homes. And it was fun. It was so much fun. And Kevin did a great job at presenting, but then it was a great opportunity for them to, to find the time to actually learn something new about home automation and all of what his company brings to the equation when we talk about these projects. So it's amazing how much those sorts of events have happened in recent that have actually helped keep us educated, but also in touch with each other. It was a great idea.
I would add that we have to be very thankful for our mild climate in Northern California. It's been really easy to meet with clients outside.
Yes.
So that's been quite nice. Yeah, might continue that after this. Meetings outside with just bringing my laptop and all my fabric samples.
So true. Thank you all. What challenges have you faced when it comes to not being able to be in front of someone for your actual job duties? And as you mentioned, Dina, we're lucky in California. The weather's nice. We can meet outdoors. Aside from that, what challenges have you faced?
I'll jump in on that one because, as you know, I do love to go to parties and meet new people, and I'm an extreme extrovert, and that really works well as business development.
You are.
Not being able to be in front of people, not being in a room of people that I've never met before, but I want to meet, and just that camaraderie and that that excitement of going to events has been very challenging.
Well, so from the perspective of my team and the office, it really does add to the time equation when we talk about how we interact with people around us in the workplace. I might sit with a designer and discuss what the detail is going to be on a particular elevation that we're drawing up for the cabinet maker, or what fabrics we're pulling together to present to a client. And it's, we're so used to just doing a touch feel sort of situation in the office that this has presented a real challenge. And so now they have to send documents to me that I then mark up with red lines and send back. And then, there's a bit of, what did he mean by that? So then we jump on another call. So rather than being able to do it in person where I could immediately address any concerns or questions, it slows down the process without a doubt. And as well as, the design center here in San Francisco was closed for quite a while. So getting fabrics pulled was an option, but it's not the same as actually going to the showroom and feeling the wings and saying, oh, that's what I was looking for. I can give direction, but there's something, and I think, Dina, I don't know if you'll agree with me or not, but there's something about being able to touch and feel that panel that says, oh, that's what I was thinking of. And I might not have been able to properly communicate that to the showroom and say, pull me a bunch of blue fabrics. Well, they don't know what I mean. It's been a challenge.
I think that's been the biggest challenge for us as well. We pride ourselves on working really quickly and efficiently, and especially now all our clients want everything done faster than usual. And just not being able to go to the design center and pick things out ourselves and having to rely on our vendors, who are wonderful, but it's just hard to explain, the exact shade of blue that we need. And so it's been so much more back and forth that could have been eliminated if we could go to the design center ourselves. And then, of course, just the hours are different now, and vendors aren't working at full capacity, or there have been unfortunate furloughs, and just the speed that we're used to working at just isn't, we're being bogged down, and it's, no one's fault besides COVID.
Definitely. How do you feel like leaning on your relationships during this time has helped with some of these issues?
Well, I'll jump in on that one too, because there are certain showrooms that are my go-to places, and we're on a first name basis, and they do have a general idea of what I like and don't like, and so that has been quite helpful for me to be able to reach out in person and say, hey, Aaron at Needler, you're really, I'm gonna need your help on this, and this is what I'm looking for, and can you have someone pull this together for me? And she understands and she gets it. So it's having that personal relationship that makes all the difference. Having that person in the showroom that I've worked with over time, and they get me, they understand me, and they know that, like, I wouldn't ask for something in a really short turnaround time unless I really needed it. So I've been lucky to say that, having built those relationships over years has made a huge difference in getting me what I need.
I think that's a good point. Just like having someone at a showroom that knows your style, knows your aesthetic, so that when you say, this is what I'm looking for, they already have an idea of what you like, what you wouldn't like.
Mm-hmm. And it's having that person's name. So, like, I can say, oh, Megan, I need stone samples in this color family. And, and you do it for me because we have a relationship, and it's
exactly.
Been great. It really is.
Definitely. What about you, Kevin?
I think it's really important to make sure that people realize that it's not just a business transaction, it's a relationship that you've developed, and just let them know that you care about them and find out what's going on in their world. Obviously this has been extremely challenging for all of us, and for some more than others. There are people that have been laid off that, if you didn't give them a call, you'd have no idea. Now they have a brand new job, and it's nice to be able to stay connected on a more personal level as well. Not just, hey, are you going to bring me a job, or hey, I've got a project for you. It's more, how are you getting through this? Are you doing okay? And I'm just as guilty, I think, as anybody. It's really difficult to just reach out and say hi sometimes when you're used to seeing people in a room, or you're used to really interacting with people on a more regular basis. Just to reach out and say hi, I think is pretty crucial. So I've done it a few times, and I'm challenging myself to do it even more.
That's great. What about you, Dina? How have you leaned on relationships during this time?
I've been very grateful that over the years have made friends with the vendors and, colleagues and people in the industry. And I do feel like everyone's been trying to help to the best of their ability, make things happen for our team and to be responsive. And I just feel bad because I feel like everyone is working so much harder than they really need to, just because of the fact that there's, less, you're not able to go into your workplace, or your other colleagues are no longer working with you. So it's been tough, but I do feel like everyone's been trying to help us out. We're very grateful for that.
Definitely. So, as you probably feel the same way, everyone has been getting so much Zoom fatigue. How are you finding ways to work around this? I think at the beginning, everyone was really excited about these virtual meetings. It was kind of like, okay, let's do this. And then it kind of got to the point where everyone was hitting the wall a little bit. So what are some creative ways that you've worked around this?
Well, one of the things I like to do sometimes is sometimes I just pick up the phone because it's more immediate and we don't have to schedule the Zoom call and do all of that. So sometimes it's just that sense of immediacy that works well. But the other thing that we have done is that, some of my colleagues here live in the vicinity, and we have also gotten together on the sidewalk in front of my house, in front of other people's houses, as well as my backyard, because I happen to have a backyard here in San Francisco, and just to have a drink or, hang out kind of a thing, and everyone stays socially distanced, and it just works. And so you get this opportunity to actually see somebody. It sort of breaks the mold of the Zoom call. And what we're trying to do when we do those things is not to talk about work. Like, leave work at the door and just kind of let go and just talk about what's going on for you guys.
I love that.
Yeah.
I've been kind of even so brave as to, I've had, two people over for dinner where we all sit in the backyard, have a table out there, and it's just nice to actually see people. Other designers I've done that with a few times, and it's always a very small, tight-knit group, people who I know and I trust that they're being careful, and it has made all the difference, at least for me personally, to have been able to actually see people. I don't have to touch them, but it's just that whole social interaction is huge for me, because while I may not be as much of an extrovert as Kevin, I do really enjoy. I mean, all right, let's be honest. We don't know if anybody's as much of an extrovert as Kevin. That's just saying that. But I think for so many of us, even after all this time in quarantine, that making that connection in a physical way while using judgment and being careful, it is so important. I mean, that on a Saturday afternoon to have lunch outside, it's amazing. All of a sudden, something so simple has made all the difference in my outlook for the weekend.
Definitely.
I think one of the things that I need to do is I need to get out. And so I've actually done Zoom meetings walking along the beach. I mean, there's no reason, if I don't need to have my computer in front of me, to not just do a Zoom meeting on a walk. And I do a lot of driving. So I'll drive to job sites. I'll drive, we stay socially distanced at job sites. But I also just drive around neighborhoods and just kind of get an idea of what new work and new projects are coming, because the projects aren't stopping just because we're not able to meet together. So as part of my job, that's just kind of how I've gotten away from the actual computer monitor in front of my face.
So in what ways has this time helped deepen relationships with people that you met at networking events in the past? So maybe people that you kind of knew a little bit. Have you felt like this time has helped deepen those relationships?
Someone talking?
I was thinking, but I think I was thinking out loud. I think that the relationships that you have been able to maintain through this social distancing have definitely gotten deeper, and I think you have almost figured out who you want to continue relationships with, and you've made an effort. And then, the relationships that were maybe more on a periphery, you've probably let go. So I think it's probably helped people figure out, which relationships are meaningful and which, really can stand the test of not so much time, but COVID. And then I do find myself in the car thinking, oh, who haven't I talked to in a while? Who can I call while I'm driving and reconnect with? So that's also been interesting, like who comes top of mind, and like who should I reach out to and see how they're doing. And it's also been nice how people are really appreciative of you checking in and making sure that they're doing well.
So true.
I think a good example is being on this panel. I've done this now a couple times, and it without a doubt, Megan, deepens my connection to you in the showroom, but it also does to Kevin, who is a vendor, if you will, that I've worked with and will continue to work with, but also, seeing Dina, who, we did a showcase house in San Francisco together a couple of years ago, and, not seeing anybody, it's, although we did run into each other outside of a bakery here in San Francisco recently. I was buying a lemon cake to take to friends, but
I need the details on that bakery. That sounds delicious.
Oh, Susie cakes. Well, they're
love Susie cakes.
They are amazing. Well, their lemon cake is just out of this world. So I highly, highly recommend it. But there's one around the corner from my office on California Street, and Dina was in it was so strange to see somebody that because the streets are so empty. And it was good to see Dina. She always has a big smile on her face, and she's always happy.
But it's also been so interesting because you don't know how comfortable people are interacting, or how. So I did see Chris, and I was like, I don't know if he how close I can get, if I should, I should offer to share my Susie cake with him. I think I was.
I'll tell you a good story too. I was walking. I have a really nice little grocery store about a block from my house, and I had gone shopping, and I was on my way home, and it was in the middle of the day, and I, of course, had my face mask on. And then someone was walking towards me, and they had a face mask on. They said, "Hey, Chris." And I was like, "Who? What?" I didn't have a clue who it was. And so that presents its own set of challenges, is I don't recognize people when they're wearing a mask. I'm like, okay. And so I just said, "Oh, hey." And I don't know who I said hi to.
That's awesome.
That actually happened to me as well. I was walking into Boulevard, and Vahid, who's a rug vendor, was walking his two dogs, and he was with his wife, and they were both wearing masks, and they walked by me and said, "Hello, gorgeous, how are you?" And I was with my boyfriend, and he was like, "Who just said that to you?" And I recognized them with masks on, but I obviously recognize they have two little adorable white Malteses. The Malteses weren't wearing face masks, so I recognized the dogs and then put it together and then just started laughing.
Yeah, it's strange times we're living in, yes, but there's a way. I think we're all finding a way to somehow make it work. I think it's less of a challenge if you just have an optimistic outlook that this is going to go away at some point. But I also feel incredibly lucky to live in San Francisco, which has done so much to protect us and citizens from what's going on out there. So I feel lucky.
Definitely. Kevin, do you have anything to add to that in regards to if this has deepened relationships with people you've met in the past?
Yeah, I found out a builder brought us a job, and we were working together, and he said he had another job coming up, and I gave him a call, and there was just something really off, and so I asked him what had happened, and his house burned down in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and that was just that just happened, and I immediately went to, this is not just a business relationship. This guy's he's really struggling right now. And so I just asked him, is there anything, I can do to help? Is there anything, our company, can do to help? Is there anything that you need right now? And, it turns out if he decides he's going to build, we're going to help him out a lot, because, this isn't just something that, it's not just COVID. There's been so many fires and so many other 2020 things that have happened this year. Yes, I just coined the term 2020 things, because this year is just crazy. And, I think we're just, like Chris said, we're lucky that we live in a place that that is really taking care of us when it comes to protecting us from COVID, but also that we live in a place where people really care about each other, where, these relationships that we have are not just business.
It's so true. So kind of circling back to peripheral relationships, how are you staying in front of people that, that you would normally just see at parties? And I think, Kevin, I would love to hear what you have to say about this as, you're in sales, you're a vendor, you meet a lot of clients through these, networking industry events. How are you staying in front of those kind of peripheral relationships during this time? And Chris and Dina, definitely feel free to add too if you.
Well, I can tell you Chris's office hit it out of the ballpark, so I'll let him talk. But what I've done is made a lot of phone calls. I'm on the phone all the time, just saying hi to people, just making sure people, as a business, know that we're still here, right? In the first 3, 4, 5 months, especially the first 3 months, there were a lot of companies that they didn't make it. And we needed to let people know we're still doing what we're doing. We haven't gone anywhere. But honestly, I wish I had thought of what Chris's office is doing. So, Chris, would you mind sharing that?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we put together was we sent out, can you see it? So we put together a little gift box, and we sent it out to some of our clients, but also to contractors, architects, people we do business with on a regular, ongoing basis that we may not have heard from in a while. And it was a way of saying, hey, we're just thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. It's just a way to kind of reach out and let people know that we are thinking of them and we are maintaining this relationship because it's important to us. And the feedback has really been tremendous. I have to say that it has made a huge difference in terms of what's going on in the office. I think having positive feedback from clients and from other architects, it really did. It did, as a way to say hi, it worked really well.
Chris, what was the gift?
So there's a candle, there's a bottle opener, there's a notebook and a nice pen, and there's something else in there too. I'm just drawing a blank, but yeah. So we put together it's not meant to be, oh my God, wow. It's just hey.
It's the thought.
Exactly. That's what we were going for here. We're not sending out rubies and diamonds and Rolex watches. No.
If you decide to, you can send them my way. Just kidding. No, I love that. I think just those small tokens of we're thinking of you means so much to people, especially during this time where we all feel so more isolated in any other time.
Yeah. So something I think I would add to that as well is that I know there's this one contractor that I work with in Portola Valley, and we're building a house together. And normally I would just email back and forth because everyone's busy. But I find now more often than not, I pick up the phone because then I make a connection with them, and just responding to their email to whatever they were asking me, is this the correct light placement, or what was the finish on that faucet, or something like that. Then we get on and we talk about other things like, well, so how are you doing, and what's going on with you, and so there's that personal interaction, which takes it beyond the just perfunctory response to what their question was as it relates to the project. It really helps to build the relationship. It's far more significant, in my opinion, that I speak to them on the phone, and it creates that bond, if you will.
I agree. So much doesn't come through on email, tone, your personality. It just doesn't. You can't capture that in an email.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What about you, Dina?
In terms of staying in touch, or
Yes.
what have we done differently? Yeah, I definitely would say it's a lot more phone calls, just because then, since you don't have the physical presence, at least hearing someone's voice, it's hard in email to understand how someone's doing. And then I've been trying to do a lot of walks with people and just outdoor activities with clients, so that there's still a semblance of normalcy.
Yeah. So the other thing that I think that one of the other ways that I'd like to do this, so in terms of the projects that we're working on, the majority of them, the ones that I am on, are under construction, and we were closed down in the Bay Area for all construction for a couple of months. And so that as soon as those projects opened up again, having the ability to meet on site with the client, with the architect, with the contractor, with the AV consultant, with the electrician, whoever, that sort of really helped a lot. And being able to go back and do that. So while now I might say, we could easily answer this issue or address this issue in an email or a quick phone call, I might say, let's meet on the job site and see what other issues might we discuss. So it gives us an opportunity to really be in front of people. And that, I think that's something that I like to try and do whenever possible.
That's great. So what are some things that you've all learned during this time that you will continue once we're able to meet in large groups again?
I think it's really important that, again, people know that you're caring about them, not just what they can do for you. And somebody told me, a really smart person told me one time, if you walk into a room when there's a party and you expect that you're going to get a referral, you expect that you're going to get a job out of the room, you're walking in with the wrong attitude. You need to walk in and basically find out about people and learn about people and let them talk and let them say who they are and really, develop just a little bit more of that rapport with somebody before you even start talking about, business and how you might be able to help each other. And so I think what we learned from those parties, we really need to take into our, post-COVID life as well, right? I mean, when we make phone calls to people, don't start off with, hey, do you have any jobs? Start off with, how's your family? How are you doing through this? And I know that time is kind of hard for people right now, just because, everybody's really, really busy. But if you take that extra couple of seconds and just ask, how are you feeling? Are you getting through this time okay? People will sometimes open up to you in ways that you never expected. And all of a sudden you have a much, much deeper connection with that person. So I think that's something that immediately, putting that into place makes perfect sense.
I couldn't agree more with you, Kevin. I think that it's finding that way to sort of connect with them outside of that working relationship, which you've already developed and are maintaining. It's asking about their kids or their dog or what else is going on in their lives. I think that it's worth the time investment to reach out to someone and to have that kind of a conversation, which I honestly not sure that I would have or have always done in the past. We do meet at these parties and we say, hey, how's it going? And there's that general kind of question that we ask each other. But I think that there's the difference now is that there's more interest on both parties.
Yes.
To actually to find out really what is happening. And it's not just the standard, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm great, life's good,
I definitely agree. And Kevin, kind of going back to what you said, and I definitely learned this from you, because every time I see you, you always ask, who can I introduce you to? Who do you not know that you want to get to know? And you're always first looking for ways to add value. And I just think you are great. You've definitely taught me that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I consider a lot of the people in our industry friends. And I don't use that term, lightly. I think there are people that I can call that have nothing to do with work. Chris, I mean, you're one of them. I can call you and we can talk about things that have nothing to do with work, and I can sometimes tell you that I've had a horrible day, and sometimes you can tell me you've had a great day, and you can pick me up, and there's just that relationship that I think is super important to have. Even if you only have 3, 4, 5 of them, you don't need to have 100 people that you do that with, but leaning on people like that and having people know that they can lean on you that way as well. Making yourself available, not always having to talk, but just being a good listener, just to find out if somebody actually needs something deeper than what they're talking about right then and there.
Definitely. And this next question kind of rolls into what we've already been talking about, but how can we be better at maintaining industry relationships during this time?
I have to say, you called us experts, and I think in this time, I'm not an expert. I'm learning just like everybody else. One thing that just even being on this panel has got me thinking about is there are people that I would see at parties and people that I would consider my friends that I haven't reached out to lately. And, I don't actually know how they're doing. And I know that that's kind of counter what we're talking about here. There are people that I do a lot of business with, or I have a lot of conversations with, but there are 3, 4, 5, 10, I don't know, people out there that I really should be just making a phone call to and just saying, how's it going? Are you getting through this okay? And I think that's what I'm going to do following this phone call, is go and really reach out to people. I may not do it all today. I think it'd be great if I could. But if I can set up a schedule and just basically say, you know what, every couple of days, I'm just going to reach out to somebody and say hi. I think then I'm, winning because we did this.
That's a great point, Kevin. What about you, Dina?
I have to agree. I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking, oh, who have I not talked to, or who have I not?
I know, me too. Like, there's so many people I need to reach out to.
I'll be sending a lot of text messages. Calling.
Very inspired.
To the airport. And I think it's just, building relationships and maintaining relationships. It's time. I don't want to say it's consuming because that makes it sound negative, but it's a big effort and it's a constant effort, and relationships are really important. I think we've all kind of learned that, not being able to see everyone regularly the way that we were used to prior to March. And so I think it's just important to constantly find, new ways to interact with people, and whether it be, a Zoom call or a phone call or a text message, or, finding a way to, meet up somehow. But it's just something you have to be aware of.
I think that's such a good point, and I'm very inspired as well to just text and email and call a bunch of people. I think it's easy. I mean, this year is flying by, in my opinion. It's gone by so fast, and there's so many people that I maybe, just haven't seen because of the way things are, but people that I know that, we just haven't crossed paths or haven't worked together, that I'm definitely going to be reaching out to more. Just being intentional about that, maybe setting aside some time to do that. So, how has social media helped or hindered the process of building relationships? This is a big one because social media is huge, as we all know.
I can go first for this one. I think social media is really great and has definitely assisted in staying in touch. I think also part of the problem is because you're constantly seeing updates in people's lives, you feel like you actually know what's going on, and you feel like you've touched base with them. But in reality, you really haven't had that intimate connection that a relationship requires. So even though it's a really easy way to stay in touch with lots of people, I think it's more superficial relationships. And I don't think that social media can replace, the touch points of how relationships used to be made before there was social media.
So following on Dina's comment, I have in the Bay Area here, there's one of the showrooms has set up a group, and it's for designers and people in the design industry. And people post about what's going on maybe with their business, or if they had a question. And so that has been actually a really great way to kind of hear what other people are going through, what they're experiencing, and what their issues are. And they actually post about, well, the design center is going to be opening, or it's going to be closing again. And so I think that group that was formed has been really, really informative. And it's been a great way to stay in touch with these people. But I think I do agree with Dina that there is a certain level when I talk about social media from the perspective of personal friends, it is superficial. I do agree. But what I think I've tried to do is use it as an entree. So when I see that someone posted something about their dog or about their child, I mean, that's an invitation to pick up the phone, because you see something and like, oh, I have not talked to them in so long. I pick up the phone and say, hey, saw the picture of the dog, the new dog, or the baby walking. Oh, it was so beautiful. And so that from that perspective, I think that if we could take that next step, that leads to the deepening of those relationships. And I think that it's easy, and I would say that I'm fairly guilty of it as well, that superficiality, you never know what's really going on in their lives. I think that it gives a false sense of what's really happening.
I completely agree with you both on the false sense of like, okay, I saw them on social media. I know what they've been up to. I know they went here. I know they're working on this project. And then sometimes I feel like I'll almost forget, like, oh, I need to reach out to them because I haven't actually contacted them, or I know what's going on because of social media, but it gives this kind of, like you were saying, false sense of we're in touch, but we're not. Kevin, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what Chris and Dina said, and you. It's important to maybe use that as a starting point, right? 3 weeks ago, Napa was on fire. The wine country was on fire, and most people up there were posting, just how much of a disaster it was. And I think just responding, hey, just want to let you know we're thinking about you. Hope everything's okay. You can do that, and that's something. But unless you actually kind of follow up on that and see how things are now, right? It's really easy for us. We're not on fire here. It's really easy for us to kind of, I hate to say it, but not think about what's going on up there, and not think about what's going on as the after effect, the aftermath. I think the same thing's going to be true once we're free to start meeting again, and the COVID-19 is over. Are we going to still have that? Yeah, but how are you doing now, right? Are you okay now that things are kind of getting back to quote unquote normal? So people who post pictures of Hawaii and all their vacations and things like that, it's really easy to think that they're having a great time. Maybe they're not having a great time at all. So, just following up and just making sure that people are truly okay.
That's the perfect segue for our next question. So, how can we show people that we care about them and their well-being, not just what they can do for us?
So I think an action step is what I need to take personally, right? Instead of just saying, I'm going to call a bunch of people. I think if we actually take the time to put it on our calendars, or I'm going to put it on my calendar, call this person on Tuesday at 11 a.m., call this person on Thursday at 2 p.m., knowing that that's something that I don't have anything going on at that time. I could be doing other things, But if it shows up on my calendar, it's a better chance that there's a better chance that I'm actually going to follow through on that. And maybe I don't do it right then and there, but I know that that's a reminder, and I don't miss appointments. So if I don't miss appointments, then there's no excuse for me not to miss that appointment as well, or there's no excuse for me to miss that appointment. So I'm going to remind myself just how important it is to reach out to people by putting it onto my calendar.
I love that. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, I think like the calendar idea is a way to sort of force yourself to follow up. It's easy to forget. So I think that's actually a really good suggestion. Trying to think of what else I might say on that topic. Yeah, I'm not sure I have much more to say on the topic.
And
well,
Dina,
considering you've been sending gifts out to people, that's
yes.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, the fact that you've been doing that, if you just keep on doing that, then I'm going to follow in your footsteps and start doing that. I'm stealing it. Sorry, I just am. I'm absolutely stealing that starting today.
Me too.
Okay, so you have my home address, right, Kevin?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, because all packages go to my house.
Well, I always think that a really sweet way of staying in touch with people are handwritten notes or sending snail mail. And so I always think, oh, when I have free time, that's what I'm going to do. But apparently I have no free time because I have very few handwritten notes. But I do think that's just a really nice touch and people really appreciate it. And it's a sweet sentiment.
I agree.
So then, maybe I might say this then, Megan. Is again, I'm back to my phone calls, but I have found that through the course of the pandemic, I do make it, and this is now on a personal level as opposed to a business relationship, is that I do find that I pick up the phone more often and speak with family members and good friends. And I lived in Chicago for a long time, so there are a few friends that I sort of left, let those relationships sort of drift away. And yet now I find that I'm on the phone with them almost once a week in cases. And so that it's like, that really shows how much we care about each other. And it's finding the time, and it's on weekends and nights, but it has made a big difference. And so I feel like I've reconnected the number of people who I might have lost touch with, or maybe I just don't touch base with very frequently. And so I would say that I've learned that, if nothing else, in the pandemic.
Yes, I love that. So some simple action steps for people to take away from this conversation. Just simple action items that people can do on a daily basis to let people know that, they care about them. So, the sending gifts, the handwritten notes, phone calls. Do you have anything else to add to this?
I think if in your daily duties and your daily conversations, you find out that someone is struggling with something, maybe they don't work at that showroom anymore, maybe they don't have a job right now, almost immediately reach out to them and say, hey, I just found out, is there anything I can do? And maybe there's nothing you can do, but just being there for people, I think, is going to be important. I had a person call me, and it's very personal, so I won't get into details, but this person didn't have a job anymore. And I started calling around to my contacts, asking if there was any openings in what they were looking to do. And I don't think anything came out of it, but I think I just wanted to help in any way I possibly could. And so just finding out if somebody is struggling, if there's anything you can do to help. And again, I'm just as guilty, because that one that one situation was great. I'm sure there's lots of other situations that could have come up if I had just made a call.
I think another opportunity I do infrequently, but it's I might just send a text to someone for no apparent reason, just to say, hey, checking in, hope you're doing well. And something that small, I think, sort of shows them that you're thinking of them. And I might do it during the middle of the day when I'm busy working and doing Zoom calls and, working on drawings. But just that little note, just to say, hey, thinking of you, hope you're having a good day. I think it just, says something to people. And I think that knows, they then realize that you do care. And it's not just about a business relationship, hey, just checking in.
Definitely. Dina, do you have anything to add?
No, but I think just a long time ago, a friend said, just call someone, just text them out of the blue, someone you haven't talked to in a real long time. They'll be so surprised, and it'll be just a really sweet, like an unexpected, extra like smile on their face if you do that.
So think of someone that has helped you through this time. What did they do that helped? Or something that stood out to you?
In this time of uncertainty, especially in the first 2 months, where there were furloughs and there were jobs. I mean, personally, I have had 9 jobs that we thought were going to be projects either go away because they just didn't build, or the homeowner or client just decided that they were going to wait until 2021. There were some really kind of scary things happening, and people like Chris were there for me to kind of lean on and talk to, and just kind of help me realize that this is a very different, very new thing that's happening. But like we've all been saying, it will pass, and just keep on, staying positive. And I think being able to lean on someone has been extremely important for me to be able to kind of get through this time.
And I would say that's true of me as well. I have a couple of close friends in the industry, and just being able to talk to them and say, what do you think about this or think about that? It's quite helpful, especially when you can't see them in person, because we're used to getting together for cocktail parties and such. And so now it's we pick up the phone and we talk, and those are people that are my closest friends and who I know support me and care.
Okay, so friendships over business transactions. How do you bridge that gap and go deeper when you aren't meeting in person?
Well, I would say for me, Kevin is a perfect example that we talk periodically, and it's not really about business. I can think of a couple other people. This woman I know who's a decorative painter that I've hired before, but we've become friends, and that makes a huge difference. So yeah, for sure that we do. When you find that kinship with that individual, the friendship becomes more important than the business relationship.
I sometimes have vendors who will just email me out of the blue and just be like, hi, how are you? And it has nothing to do with a recent project or a quote request we put in, but it's literally just like, oh, I saw this and I liked your outfit, or, just something that's so unrelated to our work relationship, that I think it's those little moments that help build a relationship and strengthen, maybe build a friendship with someone, and if you also do business with them, it also moves the business relationship along as well. But it is always nice to get a random email from a vendor or a colleague, that I wasn't expecting and that has nothing to do with work or business.
Definitely. Kevin, do you have anything to add?
Not really. I mean, I think it's been said, but I think of the friendships that you have, and I see that you've got some friendships that are just super, super solid that came from the design industry. I can think of one in particular, and you guys are inseparable, and I think it's amazing that you guys are leaning on each other during this time. So kudos to you that you've developed relationships that go in this short time that you've been here, that go far, far deeper than work.
Thanks, Kevin. Well, I think that kind of closes us up for this panel. Thank you all so much for joining today. And if you have any final comments, would like to share your social media pages so that the viewers can follow you, your Instagrams or your website, if you want to share what those are.
Dina?
Yeah.
So easy, at Dina Bandman Interiors on Instagram.
Yeah, and we're at Kendall Wilkinson Design.
So my personal Instagram, because we haven't done one for my company yet, is SF Giants fan with a 1 instead of an I. So SFG1 Ants fan.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.